Greetings. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Community Focus. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an outstanding guest with us this morning, Diana Burdett, and she's going to be talking about ethylene oxide and environmental justice. Good morning, Diana.
Good morning.
Diana, Lake County, as you probably know, is approximately 750 to 800,000 people, but I don't know how many up this Sunday morning, 5 o'clock, listen to the program. But I understand we have a pretty good audience, on this every Sunday morning, and they're going to. I'll be listening to and learning about the topic right along with my listening audience. But first of all, I'd like for you to tell our listening audience a little bit about your personal and professional background. Who is Diana?
So, I'm Diana Burdett. I'm married to Dr. Dylan Burdett, and I have 2 children, a 5 and a 3-year-old.
Okay.
My husband and I moved to Waukegan in 2010. And we moved here because he was actually accepted to a PhD program at Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science in North Chicago.
Yes.
And I was working on my bachelor's at the time. I was working on pre-medicine. And I could continue that. I continued the remainder of it at CLC, and then I transferred over to UWP in Wisconsin Parkside. Mm-hmm. So it was easy for us to make that transition. We were kidless at the time.
Okay.
So it was easy for us to make that transition. We lived in the 2nd ward of Waukegan for several years, and that's where we decided to start our family. Mm-hmm. So we had 2 children there in the 2nd ward, and I stopped going to school so that I could be a full-time homemaker and full-time mother, and I'm also a homeschooling full-time mother. I still am homeschooling, and I still plan on homeschooling my children through high school. Mm-hmm. So that's what we were doing. And then when my children were old enough, I decided to finish off, and I went back to school and finished my bachelor's. And instead of pre-medicine this time, I decided to do communication, leadership, and organization. Little did I know that I would be using that education not only to homeschool the children. That was actually my goal, to homeschool the children, and using that education to organize myself to homeschool the children. But I ended up using it to help organize this movement regarding ethylene oxide within our community. So,
Well, what is ethylene oxide?
Mm-hmm. So ethylene oxide is a scentless, clear gas that is used for sterilization, and it's also used as a component to create other chemicals like lotions and soaps. It's also used to make plastics. A lot of a high percentage of car parts are made with ethylene oxide. So it's a chemical that is used to kill, and it's a very good at doing what it's supposed to do, and that's kill, and also to make other components, other chemicals.
Mm-hmm. Well, how's it used in Lake County?
So in Lake County, we have 2 facilities using ethylene oxide at high levels. One of them is Medline, and that's off of Route 41.
Okay.
They use it to sterilize medical components. So syringes, tubing, I believe that they were using it for gowns also. I could be wrong, but I believe that they were just using it to sterilize everything that is used for medical purposes. And then there's a second facility, one called Vantage Chemicals. And Vantage Chemicals is up off of Delaney Road and near Sunset and Delaney. Mm-hmm. And so Vantage Chemicals uses it as an intermediate chemical. So it's used to produce other chemicals and used to produce other products. That's how it's used there. And these two facilities have been emitting this gas into our ambient air for many years now. Now, this gas is a Class 1 by the EPA. It's been classified as a Class 1 known human carcinogen and a mutagen. So it enters our body. It causes mutations, which then lead to cancer or just a permanent mutation. It also can cause a permanent mutation that will eventually turn into cancer. So these two facilities have been emitting this into our ambient air. And that's how it's used here in Lake County, and that's what's been happening here in Lake County. Now, in 2016 is when the EPA actually updated their reclassified this chemical. In 2016 is when they decided, as a matter of fact, it's much more toxic than we thought. It's 30% more toxic and cancerous to adults and 60% to children.
And when you say they, who they?
The Environmental Protection Agency.
Okay.
Yes. Then they updated their maps and they raised our cancer incidence here in Lake County from 1 in a million to 1 in 1,000.
Now, when you say Lake County, is that the whole, all of Lake County?
When I say Lake County, I'm saying that near the two facilities, Medline and Vantage, that cancer incidence spiked. It spiked. Now, unfortunately, we are at a point where these two facilities have upgraded their ventilation system, and we will never know the true effects of these two facilities on our human health in our communities, because at this point they have upgraded their systems enough to remove some of the emissions, not all. We're still really high, and we can get into that in a bit, but they have removed quite a bit. And so we will never know how much the damage is that they did to our communities, unfortunately.
Well, what have our elected officials done for the health of the community?
So from what I've been told personally is that the elected officials knew in August of 2018. And they were in communication with the Environmental Protection Agency. And then we also have a state Environmental Protection Agency entity, which is the Illinois EPA. So there's the federal EPA and the Illinois EPA. So they were in communication with these two entities, but these two entities had been bouncing the ball back and forth. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. So they were just bouncing it back and forth. You guys fix it. No, you guys fix it. And that's all they had done. They did nothing to alert our community. They did nothing to create a town hall and give us information. We're now in August of 2019, a year later, and we're still finding people who don't know anything about it. And it's still a problem because these two facilities are still emitting this gas. So in November, there was an article put out by Michael Hawthorne who amplified the message that there are these two facilities. And there was a community organization that was formed to create some noise and let the community know, but they were centered and geared out of Gurnee, and there wasn't anything coming into Park City, North Chicago, Waukegan. In February, when I went to one of their meetings, I said, well, what's happening in these other areas? And they said, nothing. So February 4th, my husband and I went and talked at the city council. And that was our first our first time engaging with these communities and trying to get the word out. Since then, we've been pretty active. Waukegan was actually a leader in getting the conversation started about testing, independent air testing, to see how much of this chemical was being emitted by these facilities. And they decided to get the ball moving in May. And they just completed with being overseen by the county. They just completed air quality testing, Waukegan, Gurnee, and being overseen by Lake County, to confirm that there is 100%, there is ethylene oxide in our air, and we've been breathing it in for years.
So the Waukegan did react positively then when you brought this to them.
Waukegan did, yes. Unfortunately, it was much slower in the other municipality. But with Waukegan leading the way, we were able to get some movement. And Lake County was leading also. The county has been in communication with the community. They do have a website up giving information out. But I want to make it clear that despite making an effort to listen to the community and take action, there has been no action towards putting together a town hall and involving the community voices. We had to, as activists and as organizers, had to go in and pressure and ask for air testing and ask for movement. Nothing was just offered over, or they didn't feel as though they were responsible enough to give this information out to the community. And that's a failing. That's a failing, because I'm not the only one that's breathing this air in. My children aren't the only ones that are breathing this air in. There are hundreds of children out there affected, hundreds of grandmothers, hundreds of people who have sensitivities and have immune deficiency problems that are breathing in this toxic gas, and they don't know because they're not being informed.
Do you think redlining plays a factor in this?
Without a doubt. So there is an environmental justice aspect to this entire situation. Environmental justice is the idea that we live, work, and play in toxic areas, and those areas are predominantly the working poor, the working class, and people of color. And what happens is that our communities are redlined into an area with brown fields that are known for flooding on a regular basis. And then they're surrounded by toxic facilities like the coal plant up by the lakeshore that is emitting lead, mercury, heavy metals. Our asthma rates are 1 out of 3 higher than national average.
Wow.
And then they're also surrounded by other facilities that are emitting other things like ethylene oxide, or AB Specialties that just exploded. They're surrounded by residential areas. Luckily, it was contained to AB Specialty, but just 3,000 feet away, there is Vantage Chemicals with ethylene oxide in it. And ethylene oxide is also used for thermobaric weaponry. So highly explosive. 3,000 feet away from AB Specialties, there's ethylene oxide that is highly explosive, and in between them there's a propane company. So could you imagine a domino effect? And we are redlined into this community and surrounded by all of these high risk industrial facilities and high dangers. And then these facilities are using these chemicals to produce plasticware that goes into our 99-cent store. And then this plasticware also causes cancer. It's not BPA free. It's probably does have BPA, and it's also cancer causing. And we use it to put it on the table for our children because it's plastic.
Right.
So then our children are using it. They're putting it in through this plastic material. And then 99 Cent Store also has toys that our children put into their mouth and little makeup kits that have lead in them that we give to our children to play with. And then what happens? An exodus of people who are able to leave, and they leave big empty spaces. And these empty spaces are filled with 99 cent stores. How many 99 cent stores do we have in this area? Mm-hmm. Tons, right? Mm-hmm. And so then we have something like North Chicago that doesn't have a grocery store, right? It's not a food desert. It's a food depression because they know that they are depressing this community by getting rid of these grocery stores. It's a food depression.
Amazing. And
so then we are relying on 99 cent stores to get our food from. And the food from the 99 cent stores, it's not the healthiest food. Not only does it have chemicals already in it, but the products that are used, the material that is used is filled is laced with pesticides. Mm-hmm. And then it's created into a product and it's added more chemicals. So we're breathing it in our air. We're living in it. We're putting it in our bellies. And everything is intentional.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're talking with Diana Burdett. She is a person that's trying to make a difference in Lake County and also saving lives. We're very fortunate to have her take time from her busy schedule to be with us to promulgate information that we may get excited and give her. If someone want to contact you and to get on board, how would they contact you? You online? Or?
I am online. You can search Diana Burdett. I've been doing all of this environmental work through Clean Power Lake County. And Clean Power Lake County has a website. We are also online on Facebook. And they have been leading environmental justice issues for 6 years. They've been trying to get the coal plant to shut down, and they've been trying to bring clean, sustainable jobs to this area instead of these dirty industrial jobs that we currently have. So Clean Power Lake County, yeah.
We've been talking about how the local officials have reacted. What about the state elected officials? What have they done for the health of our community?
So within the Waukegan, North Chicago, Park City area, the state official have been pretty quiet. They've been very silent. Nothing. There was 2 bills that were proposed and were pushed through this last session in Springfield through state officials Joyce Mason and Senator Melinda Bush. Okay. And there were some leaders, but they're not from our communities. Okay. The state officials from our communities did eventually sign up. They signed up on May 8th, and Clean Power Lake County did go and lobby them to sign up on May 9th. So they signed up on May 8th, and we were there in Springfield on May 9th. But that's about it. There is 2 bills out there that have actually been pushed through and signed by the governor that are going to be in effect on December 18th. That was 180 days since they were signed is December 18th. So,
well, what about the federal officials? What have they done for the health of our community?
Well, unfortunately, at a federal level, everyone is familiar with this. I'm not going to tell you anything new, but at a federal level, everybody's hands are tied. Our administration, those in the White House are not willing to put people first. It's all about profit first. It's money, and lives can be spent like commodities. A certain amount of lives for this product, as long as it's profitable, is okay. That's what's coming out of the White House, and that's what's being pushed into the EPA. The EPA is currently being dismantled. There are regulations that are being rolled back. They're disseminating their scientific information. Wow. They're getting rid of and silencing their scientists. Yeah. So it's been disastrous at a federal level. I know that Congressman Brad Schneider has been very vocal. Senator Tammy Duckworth has been very vocal, huge ally. Dick Durbin also. They've been very vocal, but their hands are tied. There's nothing much they can do. Even if the Congress passes something, it's just going to go over to the Senate and sit on Mitch McConnell's desk and grow webs, right? Nothing's going to pass.
So this maybe a program like this will kind of fire people up and make them ready to go to the polls, I guess, in 2020. And I understand the youngsters kind of reacting and to get ready too, right?
Yeah, and actually 17-year-olds can vote this year in the primary. If you are 17 and you will be 18 by the November 2020 election, the general election, then you can vote in the primary. The primary is in March. So you have to get ready because you are our future. You are our hope, and you are why we do this. Because I'm halfway through. I'm halfway through with my life. I have 2 little ones, and that's what it's about. It's about our children and our future and leaving a lesser struggle. I'd love to say no struggle at all, but there are a lot of obstacles. So a lesser struggle for them than there currently is, because currently it's a mess.
So we asked the question, who are being affected, and not only us, but it's mainly the youth.
Absolutely. The children.
The children.
The children are growing, so they're growing cells on a regular basis, and each one of those cell growths is being affected by a mutagen. This gas mutates cells and mutates, if it mutates your sex genes, then those mutations, they're transferable, not only to your next generation, but to all of the generations following. And those generations, if they stay within this area, can still accumulate other mutations.
So the bottom line, as we end the program, is money, right?
Absolutely.
But you know what? I have never seen a Brinks truck behind a hearse yet.
That's right.
So you're not going to be able to take it with you. It may go to the grave, but it'll remain there.
It'll break down into nothing, right? Paper breaks down eventually, so it'll turn into dirt.
So, oh my goodness, I can understand. They have family too, and their family gonna be. Well, their family are not in redline.
They're not in redlined areas. They don't choose to live here. Look at the owners of Medline. Look where they live. They're not nearby. They just put their facilities in the areas where they think they're going to have enough silence from the community.
Well, our next step here, as far as community focus is concerned, is to designate a time for you to be on Community Forum, which is the Comcast TV, and from that, the word will be spread all over the world.
I hope so.
If you have not been known all over the world, because we're online,
right.
And I'm sure that it's not just happening in Lake County.
It's not.
It's happening in all over the country.
Delaware, Louisiana, Texas, it's everywhere. Ethylene oxide is everywhere, but it's not only ethylene oxide. Environmental justice communities are everywhere. And there are redlined communities that are surrounded by toxic facilities that have 99-cent stores that are also creating toxic health crises. There's pesticides that have just the rollback on pesticides by the EPA just went through, and so the pesticides are coming out again. And so we're, like I said, we're going to be breathing it in our air. We have subpar material in HUD homes that will be off-gassing into our homes. We'll be breathing it while we sleep. We'll be putting it in our belly. We need to stop them by rising up and saying, no more. We won't stand for this anymore. Make a seat at the table. Attend city council meetings. Attend county board meetings. Attend school board meetings and say, that doesn't sound right to me. I'm going to speak up. And even if they try to silence you, you say, no, this is what I want to know. And if you don't know the answer today, I will be back tomorrow for it. That's what needs to start happening. A mobilization. Our voices need to be heard, and we need to be at that table making policy. And we need to be at that table listening to the policymakers and making sure that they have our best intentions.
Why don't we just review, again, this is such a passionate, not only a passionate effort on your part, but everyone listening should be getting be passionate about it. So review again, what is ethylene oxide and why should people be excited about it?
It's a clear, scentless gas that is used to kill, to sterilize medical components right now. And it's also used to kill bacteria in fruit and used by the agricultural community as well. It is also used to create other chemicals and other products. And it is a class 1A, the highest class of carcinogen, known human carcinogen and mutagen. And we are breathing it. And it enters our body, and 40 to 60 minutes later, we breathe it out again. So there's no way to detect it.
Wow. I would say this, and I think your husband is fortunate to have you, and you're a great mother, and the homeschooling does work because in my community, there is a young lady that has 10 children, and she homeschooled all 10.
Well, that is amazing.
So
I bow down to that. Oh, my goodness.
Homeschooling does work, But I like to just say that great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss people. Small minds discuss things. And you have one of the great minds, you and your husband, in his area, to try to make a difference. And I congratulate you and wish you well in anything that Community Forum can do. And like I say, we're going to graduate to, this is Community Focus. We're going to graduate to Community Forum because you're interested in saving lives, not only Lake County, but the whole country. And maybe we can wake up Senator McConnell, and maybe he'll retire.
Oh, yes.
And all he has to do is get the bills off of his desk and let the Senate vote.
That's right.
And let them vote up or down.
That's right. Let democracy work. Let democracy work. We're in a democratic, we are a democratic society. Let it work the way it's supposed to. Stop putting up obstacles.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we want to thank Diana Burdett for stopping by the studio to promulgate information about ethylene oxide and environmental justice. So thank you, Diana. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Community Focus. My name is Dr. Waddell Brooks Sr., your host.